my name is Denise, and today is day 98 out of 100, which means that I have been blogging for 98 days straight, and I'm a little bit tired, but I'm really excited for today because today is day 98, which means that I answer all of your questions, and I got 5 questions. So thank you so much to the people who did submit questions, and then also to people who emailed me, like encouraging me along the way. This was a really big project, so I'm really grateful for people who were like, yeah, keep going. Like, do the thing. So I'm really glad that I finished it because I was seriously thinking about quitting at like day 50 and just saying like 50 days of blogging. But I went for the whole 100 and we are at day 98. So I wanted to take some time today to answer these 5 questions from people who submitted. So the first one is from Gerald. And he writes, I am a new photographer and I came across your blog and there's loads of good information. Thank you. For me, as I'm starting out, I want to start my own business and I have some income on the side, but there are so many photographers out there. How can I compete or even get enough clients to have any sort of income? Okay, so that's a really good question. You're right, there are a lot of photographers out there, but I don't think that standing out is as hard as you think it is. For example, last year I booked a lot of my weddings on the fact that I replied to their email quickly. That's it. It wasn't because of my pricing, it wasn't because of my photos or because they like loved me. It was because I simply replied to their email. In fact, a couple months ago, I talked to a bride who said that nobody replied to her email except for me and one other photographer. And the other photographer simply asked, how can I help you? Like that was their email reply. So to stand out, all I had to do was reply quickly with enthusiasm and gratitude, which I am enthusiastic. Like I'm wedding photography is my thing. It's my passion. It's what I love. So it's easy to be grateful and to be enthusiastic when I email my potential brides. But all the people that I was competing with, all of the people who she had emailed, besides me, it wasn't that hard to stand out. So things like try to create an experience that you would want. And that's probably my biggest advice is if you like, what would a wedding photographer or anybody, any business have to do to make you go and like sing their praises? And that's where you should start. So that's a good way to stand out, is to just kind of reverse engineer an experience based on what you would want. So thank you, Gerald, for that question. Our next question is from, I'm going to say this wrong, but it's Aviva. She writes, how did you come up with 100 topics to write about? It seems like a ton. And did you write them all ahead of time or did you do it day by day? And she also, this is a 2-parter. She says, would you consider yourself a successful photographer now? And at what point do you know you crossed that line? If you don't consider yourself successful yet, how will you know when you cross that line? So those are two questions. The first one is, how did I come up with 100 topics? So when you like ask a question and then you get an answer and that just leads to like 8 more questions. That was kind of how like I wrote out a topic list. I wrote out 100 in like a Word document. And as I would think it like one of the first topics that I wanted to write about was like what website builder is best for photographers. Spoiler alert, it's totally Show It. But I wanted to write that, and then I realized that I had so much more to say on the topic of websites because I had worked for 9 years at a website hosting company. So I've seen so many websites and have a lot of experience with site building. So I did, like the fact that I came up with that one topic, it led to other topics like how to like up your SEO. I wanted to do a post on like website mistakes that I've seen over the years, what your website should say about you, curating a portfolio for your website. So they kind of just led to more. And then also I wanted to write about things that I wish I had when I was starting out, things that I learned that nobody really taught me. I wanted to kind of pass on that information. So, and I did write 50 before I started, before I like officially launched. And then I kept up kind of week by week. So, as far as being a successful photographer, I hope so. I mean, in some ways, yeah, and in some ways, there's a lot that I really want to do. A big message right now in the photography industry and just like in the girl boss world is that you define your success. So success for me looks like looks very different to what success for you might look like. So success for me looks like shooting 20 weddings a year and being able to pick my son up from school every day. And for you, it might, for somebody else, 20 weddings a year might be a failure for them. They might need 35 weddings a year. So it's definitely a personal thing, but that's kind of how, that's the bar that I've set for myself. And I definitely recommend that you kind of envision what you want your life to look like and then try to get there. Like, do what you need to do to get there. And that's your success. So thank you for your question. Yasmin asks, okay, so she says, thanks for your 100 series post. You're welcome. And I've been trying to follow since the beginning. Yay. And I love the variety that you post. She asks, how did you practice your conversation skills in client meetings? I want to make sure that those interactions are as personable as possible. So I'm looking for tips on how to practice or what to say to make my meetings feel more natural. That's a fantastic question. And I think I was just talking to my son about this a couple months ago when he actually started junior high. And I think that, okay, we all know that quote by Maya Angelou that says, people will always forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Like, we've all heard that, but it's so true. A lot of times, we walk away from an experience and we're like, that was really good. But like, we don't really think about what was good or what, like, the specifics of it. And I think that the underlying question isn't like what to say. It's, how, the underlying question is like, how do I become a more likable person? That's like a thing that not a lot of people really focus on. And so me and my son had that conversation a couple months ago. And I asked him to think of a person who always made him feel good. Like, it's somebody who you interact with and you always like walk away feeling good. And for us, that person is his violin teacher, Taylor. Taylor is just like, it's impossible to meet him and not just love him. And so we talked about it and I was like, what specifically does Taylor do that makes him so likable? And we put it into words. So we thought, like, he's always smiling. He's always smiling. He also gives you his attention. So he like maintains eye contact with you and like smiles and nods and like you can feel like he's really paying attention to you. He's also always excited to see us and he like laughs at my lame jokes. And so there's like enthusiasm. So when you're talking about trying to create a more enjoyable or personal experience, I try to incorporate those things from Taylor into my own like interactions with people, that I want them to feel the way that Taylor makes us feel. And that's true for any business. Like, when you go into a restaurant and you have just like the best experience ever and you walk away from it, like, do you ever take a mental note of what exactly it was that made it so good? What exactly it was? And that's also how I got better at photos, is by looking at other people's photos and saying, what exactly is it? It's that, their composition, like the horizons are straight, or that the lighting is always even, or that their backgrounds are always really minimal and clear. Like, pinpointing what it is can kind of help steer you in the right direction towards like what experience you want to create. So I would start taking note of what it is that I like about people that I like, or places that I go, anything like that. I hope that answers your question. It was kind of a long answer. I'm sorry. And then 2 more. Okay, Evan asks, if you can't shoot with a speed light and the light isn't great, do you simply have to crank your ISO? Have you had to give your clients a disclaimer that high ISO images are going to be grainy? Do you recommend? Okay, so And then he asked, do you recommend any good speed light diffusers? So I really like the Flash Bender. I also have the MagMod system. The Flash Bender is like super cheap. I think it's like $15 on Amazon, and I've had good results with that. As far as giving a disclaimer, not really, no. But yeah, if the light isn't good and you don't have a speed light, you have no choice but to max out your settings. So that might involve cranking your ISO. Photography is literally the study of light. So photo in Greek means light. So if you don't have light, you're kind of stuck. And if this is like a thing, like I recommend bringing the gear that you need to shoot what you're gonna shoot. Like if somebody came to me and they wanted to hire me for something and I didn't think that I had the gear to produce the kind of images that they wanted, I probably wouldn't take the job. So just from a gear standpoint, yes, like invest in like a speed light or 2 speed lights, and have what you need to navigate those low light situations. If like there's a church here in Phoenix that's really low light, and obviously like they don't allow flash. So I do tell my clients like, hey, a lot of these might be dropped to black and white. Like I'll show them examples of what I mean, just to prepare them, I guess. So the last one is from Angelita, and she writes, what is the best way to break into the wedding industry? That is a question with so many answers, but I'm going to give you one of my best tips, and that is to participate in styled shoots. And I don't know if this is an Arizona thing. If it is, maybe you can start something in your area, but there's a Facebook group, and it's called, I don't know, it's called like Styled Shoots and More or something like that. But what happens is a planner or a photographer or somebody will create a vision board and recruit people like vendors to be like the florist and to provide stationery and to provide a dress and models and all of that. And they'll set up this beautiful like wedding, like this styled shoot with different stations, like a detail station and a ceremony station, a bride and groom station, sometimes like even a wedding party they'll have, or cake, or like a cute little like outdoor furniture bar area. And what they do is they open it up to about 15 to 20 photographers, and they charge a fee of like $70, $75. Some of them are a little bit more expensive, like $100. But those 20 photographers can go and they'll like switch off in groups. So they'll split off into groups of 5 and then go to each station. And this is such a good system for so many reasons. One, you can get a bride and groom in your portfolio. And 2, it's like a good style. Like these are vendors who are trying to create something that they would want, that they want out there. So they're really beautifully styled. So you can get those images. You can also meet other photographers and see how they work. So if you pay attention to like how they pose and how they direct and how they work, you can even ask them questions. Like it's a really good little community if you're in a styled shoot with somebody. It also allows you to network with those other vendors, to shoot their work, to tag them on Instagram. You can also ask photographers there if you connect with somebody, maybe ask if you can second shoot for them. And that's actually how I got one of my best second shooters. I love her. And it was because she asked me at a styled shoot if she could second shoot for me. So start second shooting for those people. And that will probably be my best like jumping off point. If you don't have a bride and groom in your portfolio, if you want to learn from other photographers, if you want to network with other wedding vendors, like that type of environment is a really, really good way to do that. So I'll link below in the description to a link to that if you're in Arizona and you want to join that Facebook group, or see if there's one in your area. If there isn't, you can start one. I know that the person who started ours got a ton of like networking connections just by doing that. So that's kind of my tip to get started, like participate in those group style shoots. So that's it. Those are the 5 questions. You guys who submitted, like, please let me know how you're doing. Shoot me an email in like 3 to 6 months and let me know if this helped you, what you've been doing, like what kind of progress you've been making in your business. And I wish everybody watching the best of luck, and hopefully we'll see you again. Bye.